Hello, and welcome back to another Remnants of Naezith individual level discussion video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at everybody's absolute favorite level in Jade. I'm kidding, most people hate this level. This is Shinespark, and it features one of the worst grapples in the game, if not the worst. I'm not sure how many people really hate the grapple. This level features some very interesting strats. There's a lot of variation you can do with your movement. You can see the leaderboards feature a nice 1 second gap between 1st and 10th, so you can see there's a lot of room for improving on different strats. And actually, to start this off, instead of just jumping right into different strats, I just want to take a quick look at the map as a whole. Using the view height function, we can zoom all the way out and take a look at the map as a whole just to go over a couple of things. So this map is roughly 8 seconds long, approximately. Slightly less if you're fast enough, slightly more if you're a little slow. And because it's this long, it actually features routing with our dashes, which is something we haven't really seen too much before. Dash routing becomes very important, especially later on in levels that are 20 plus seconds long. I'm looking at you, Metamorphosis. So it's good to learn how dash routing works in levels like this. So the first key thing to note about dash routing is that your dash always starts off at full charge and then will immediately start recharging as soon as you use it. So that means that to get the most out of our dashes and the dash system, we need to dash as soon as time starts, which is why a lot of the time and in previous levels you'll see we buffer our dash. And that'll be key here as well, especially this starting part, since it features no grappleable blocks off of the start. We actually have to use a dash if you want to go fast. Technically, if you wanted to, you could do some stupid jumps off the wall here or something, but dashing is faster and easier. Aside from the whole dashing at the start thing, that's one dash that we'll have to use. Optimally, we're going to be skipping this right part up here and going straight up to here, which will require another dash out of us to go fast. So that's 2 dashes we have to use, and then here's where the routing difference comes in. In some routes, we're going to want to use 2 dashes like so to get through here. In other routes, we may only want to use 1 dash. In the fastest route, we do use 2 dashes there, but in a very different way, and then we have another dash at the end. So just keep in mind when you're going through these strategies, we're actually not going to be taking a look at the level as a whole this time. We're going to be going through different sections of the level. Just keep in mind how many dashes you're planning on using for your route, because in some instances there are more dashes being used early on in the level, and in some instances more dashes being used later on, so you want to make sure to keep track of all of your dashes as we go through the level. With all that said, let's take a look at this level's start. Alright, so we're going to start off with the beginning of this level, but to understand what we're doing in the beginning and why we're doing it, we actually need to figure out where we're going in this level. So I'm just going to quickly show the world record run, just so you can see a little bit of what we're trying to do here, and then we'll talk about variations and such. So the most important thing about this level is we're trying to hit this grapple somewhere down here, and use the momentum there to propel us upwards. There are ways to optimize this, but on a base level, Shinespark is entirely about hitting that grapple, and how best to hit that grapple while having enough boost to make it through the rest of the level. Which means that for us, the very start revolves around getting a good jump in between this spike corridor here, so that we can hit this grapple. Depending on the strategy you use, this might not be super important. Depending on other strategies, it might be the most important part of this level. So let's just take a look at the 2 main methods of doing the start of this level. First one we're going to take a look at is used in the top 10 by -7 and Chem, also used by multiple other people, especially the older runs. This was the older starting strat. I believe, I'm not 100% confident on this, but I believe Activie at one point had a run in the top 5 that used this start. So it is possible to go faster than these individuals have done it. Let's just take a quick look. You can see that to start off, they're buffering holding right, of course, because we're trying to go right, and holding a dash jump. And this is how all of them are going to start is holding a dash jump. Now you'll see that dash and jump are both released here because we're going to be doing a second dash jump. And the reason for this is we want to get a big long swing off of the roof up here so that we swing up towards these spikes here. We can release our swing, get a nice large curve here, and then jump over the spikes. And that'll give us a lot of room for error with our next grapple. So you'll see here we throw in a double jump, we have that second boost coming out so that we can hit this nice long swing. Gets us up under these spikes, and then we can jump here, and that makes hitting this grapple a lot easier. You can see we're very far away from the roof here, so hitting this grapple, there is a lot more room for error with that. So once again, that is a dash jump. We jump a second time and use that second dash to get us in position to hit this grapple. And if we take a look at -7's run, basically the same thing, just with larger jumps and a earlier grapple. The earlier grapple makes this part a little bit tougher, which is part of the reason for the slower run. The other part of it comes later on. So that's the slower method of doing the start. Slower technically because the dash that we're using there could be used in more advantageous places, in other places in this level. So let's take a look at the appropriate method. I'm going to call it the faster method, which is the one dash, and it looks a little something like this. We start off with our dash jump, and we're doing a big dash jump. I believe it's a full hold dash jump, or almost there. And then at the very end of it, you can see we release our jump here. That's the end of our jump. We're going to double jump again and bonk ourselves on the roof so that we start falling sooner. Then we're going to just barely skim past these spikes with this first grapple, and this time our objective is to build up some speed through this part and then aim for a perfect jump through these spikes. This method has a lot more difficulty with hitting the grapple that comes afterwards, and it's a lot more precise. So it is tougher to do, but whenever I do this method, my general goal is to do this dash jump, the second jump, and then I'm going to hit a grapple, jump, and grapple again. And I'm going to be holding both of these grapples basically all the way until the vertical, so that I have enough speed to get me through here while still being high up, so that I can jump through and past these spikes. You can see that's what I do here. I jump just under the spikes, and because I have enough speed, I skim past these spikes just barely, and I'm in position to hit a very difficult grapple here. If we take a look at some of the other runs, you'll see they all do a very similar thing. The dash jump into a second jump, there's a grapple, a jump, and a grapple. Chesda opts for a third grapple here to make this last jump a little bit easier, and this grapple a little bit easier. And I believe others on the leaderboard do something similar. But the key thing to note is the dash jump, the second jump, and then finding a grappling method through here that gets you out at a decent height with enough speed to make it through this spike corridor. So that's the start of this level. Of course, there are slower ways to do the start of this level, like doing the one dash method like this and going in through here. So if you're looking for consistency with this level with speedruns, something like that might be what you're looking for. Just depends. And of course, you don't have to go for the holding right grapple through this section, as we're going to talk about in the middle part. You can just opt for a method where you can turn around in the middle there. And in that case, you want to be getting to this point as soon as possible without caring too much about your height. So that would be optimizing your grapples for speed instead of height. Anywho, let's move on to the middle of this level. Alright, so to kick things off for the middle section, I actually have here a rather slow run. It's somewhere around the top 50, so a decent run but not particularly fast. Just to show off, we're going to be talking about the most optimal strat here, but for this run, just to show that there are other strategies you can use, especially in speedrun mode, where going for the optimal strat is dumb and doesn't really make any sense. So just to show that off, we're doing the same thing in the beginning, except with this part we're actually stopping here to turn around. That way we can hit this grapple much more easily and much more reliably. And so for this, there are two things that we're looking for. One is a long grapple, so that we build up more speed to get ourselves up here. We don't have that momentum carrying to the right to help us out with this, so we need to rely on a longer grapple to get us up through this part and over top of these spikes. So that's the main thing to focus on. Another thing to focus on is not hitting these spikes down here. They are devilishly difficult to hit, so try to avoid them. And the last thing to note is the higher up on this piece of grappleable wall that we hit, the higher up will be for our swing. So that means that we'll get a little bit more height. So optimally, we want to hit a very long grapple right on this top corner part up here, so that we can get a lot of speed and release higher up to get more height. More height in this section is better. You can see here, I hit just a little bit below there. Just skim past the spikes, we dash at the vertical, or in my case a little bit afterwards. Not fully optimal. And that gets us up to this top part here. Now this top part is what we're going to be talking about most for the middle section, because there's plenty that we can do in the middle section with this top part. Just to show off one strategy, and this is the one that the game teaches you. This is sort of the most common strategy to use for speedruns especially. You do a dash jump here. Of course this is only possible if you have 2 dash charges. You do a full dash jump there, and then you do a dash with a second jump through here. And that's an easy way to get over top and into this final section. So that's sort of the speedrun strat for Shinespark if you wanted to take a look at that. We're going to be taking a look at some more difficult stuff here. So we're going to start off with -7's run. You can see we hit this stupid difficult grapple. I really wish that I had some sort of tip for hitting this grapple, but honestly I have nothing. If you're lower down it's easier to hit. If you're going slower horizontally it's easier to hit. That's about all I have for this one. This is really a get the feel for it and then throw your head at the wall 100,000 times until one of them sticks properly. So, good luck with this grapple is really all I can say. But continuing on, we hit this grapple. It is very important though, when you do hit this grapple, to make sure that you're dashing at the right times, right at the vertical, and releasing as soon as you hit horizontal. You want to get the most speed possible out of this, and the reason for that is that the fast strat for this middle part is to use these 2 grappleable blocks up here. Preferably this longer one because it's farther to the left, so it gets us going farther, and also you'll have a longer grapple when you hit this. For -7 it doesn't particularly matter just with the strategy she goes for. So you can see a pull comes out here, and then she bonks on this top part up here, and then we're going to see this continuing with just a full hop off of this. So you can see that little extra speed that we got off of doing the pull here is mimicking the dash that we used for a dash jump in the previous run, and then we're going to have our dash charge back up to finish off this level. As you can see here, the dash and then the jump. So that's one option, just going for a single pull, bonking off of the roof, and then continuing onwards. And that's also a very viable option for speedrunning mode. Similarly, it's actually also completely viable to try and grapple onto this lower one and do the exact same thing. In fact, I think personally I find that more easy to do with speedrunning mode. Just grappling onto this small one, doing a pull, and then using that speed to do the exact same strategy. I find that one much more consistent. Anywho, there are of course faster ways, as with everything. So let's what the heck? Let's go with one right here. You see we get a nice big swing up to here, and here we're going to do, I believe in my basics tutorial video I call this the grapple or something like that. Basically we're going to do a pull onto this block here, so you can see I have grapple and then jump in effect when I go here, and then as soon as that connects I'm going to release and do a second grapple. So that pull gives me a little initial burst of speed, and then the second grapple I want to hold all the way to the vertical because that will transfer some of that speed into pure horizontal X speed. You can see here my X speed climbs and climbs and climbs, and I come off with 628 X speed, which is considerably more than -7's replay had, just from that one extra grapple. After this, there are a couple of ways to do this part. Personally, my preferred method is to do a dash here, and then delay my dash jump until the very end of it, and do a full dash jump with that. This way I have an extra dash charge at the end. My personal preference. I'm not sure if it's actually faster to do it this way, but it might be. And then we do some grapples. We're getting to the ending stuff now. So just note, you can do it with one dash, or if we take a look at Midge's run, he does the exact same thing at the start, hits the middle one, uses a dash there, does the pull into a grapple, does an immediate dash, and then makes use of his second dash right here to do a full dash jump. Very similar strategy, but winds up with no dash charge for the end here. So slight differences there. Aside from that, there's really not much to the middle. One common thing that you'll see with this section is up here. You'll notice yourself a lot of the time you go to turn and do a pull onto here, and either you grapple into this wall before you turn, which is frustrating, hitting the metal wall and nothing happens, or you'll turn and grapple and try to do a pull and your jump just will happen slightly before your grapple or something like that, or might not actually go off, and so you won't actually pull onto here. That's kind of annoying. Sometimes your grapple will just miss. Sometimes you'll hit this smaller one here. Sometimes your second grapple won't actually hit this. There's a lot of things that can go wrong here. It's a very finicky section of the level, and once again, it's just something that you have to feel out for yourself. The -7 method is much more consistent, so if you're finding you're having a lot of trouble with the pull into grapple method, feel free to try that one out and see if it works for you. You can see it's not too much slower. You can get decent times with it. So best of luck with the middle section, and I'll see you for the end. Alright, so we are here at the end of the level. Depending on the route you've used, you may have a dash charge here, you may not have a dash charge here. There's a lot of variance, so we'll go over what you can do in both instances, but we're going to start with if you have a dash at this ending part. So the key thing to note here is all of this roof is metal up until this point, so we're going to want to grapple here. The other points that are not metal are this patch of roof here and this patch of roof here. Now obviously if you have a dash, you're probably going to want to skip one of these just so that you can get the full use of your dash, the full half a second of dash boost before you hit the remnant, just to optimize your X speed. If you don't have a dash, you're going to want to grapple onto probably all of these, or as many of them as you can reasonably hit with nerves. So let's take a look at what I did in my run. You can see I hit a grapple onto here. Optimally probably would have hit it a little bit higher, thrown it out a little bit sooner, but it's still a pretty long grapple, so that's a decent amount of speed. And then of course I want to use up my dash charge. There's not much time left for that, so I do a dash jump, grapple onto this roof here, and then let the dash carry me all the way into the end. Fairly simple. I probably could have thrown out another grapple onto this part up here, but there's always the risk that you don't let go of it in time and ruin everything. So, precautionary tales there. Some other methods to do the ending. If you want to be like Midge, you can spam and pray for the best. If you want to be like Chesda, uses the same method as me. Grapple. He hits that third grapple, but you can see with this one, very slightly holds it too long and loses some speed. So there is that whole gotta be careful with the extra grapples you throw out. If you don't have that extra boost at the end, like this, then throwing out as many grapples as you can. You can opt to skip one still, but I believe optimally you would grapple onto here, do a jump grapple onto this middle section, pull up around up to this point, grapple onto here, and then do a jump grapple up to this middle section, and then as you're falling, throw out a final grapple, trying to hit this as far to the left to optimize your speed into the end. The key thing to note is you just don't want to be flying into this remnant without gaining any more speed. There is always more speed to be gained here. Your grapples are never going to be perfect, but using these platforms to get as much speed as possible is key to lowering your time down. Hopefully this has helped in some way. Shinespark is sort of one of those levels where you have to do it over and over and over and over again until it gets beaten into your muscle memory. And then at that point, you may be able to do it every once in a while. It's definitely not the most consistent level in the game. There's a reason a lot of people really hate it in Jade, especially that grapple at the bottom. That's terrifying if you're going for that in speedruns even. But yeah, this has been Shinespark. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any comments or want to swear at me or something, I don't know, do so down below. And as always, have a wonderful evening, night, day, morning, whatever it may be there.